My husband and his mother took me on a weekend retreat. On the second day, they went on a hike without me. I got a message from him, "You should take time to think alone." Hours passed. When I finally found my way back, my bag and ID were gone, and the hotel clerk said my room had been checked out by. I'm 38, married to Greg for 6 years. We live in a quiet neighborhood just outside Columbus, Ohio. Normal life. Normal house. I work in healthcare admin, Greg works in logistics. I always thought we were doing fine. We had ups and downs, sure, but who doesn't? The one constant problem in our relationship was his mother, Valerie. She never liked me. I don't think she ever tried to. From the start, she treated me like I was some kind of mistake Greg was going to wake up from. She used to make comments in front of me like, "Some women just don't have that natural wife energy," or "It's not just about looks, it's about instincts." Greg would laugh them off. When I told him how rude she was, he'd say I was too sensitive. I should have seen it for what it was, manipulation. Gaslighting. He always sided with her. Always. Fast forward to 3 weeks ago. Greg came home from work and told me he booked a weekend trip for the 3 of us. Me, him, and Valerie. He said she'd been wanting to bond more with me. Said the place was this beautiful cabin-style resort in Hocking Hills. We'd have some nature, a fire pit, trails. No Wi-Fi, but that was the point. I didn't want to go. I was already tired from work, and honestly, the idea of being alone in the woods with Valerie felt like a horror movie waiting to happen. But Greg was weirdly insistent. He kept saying, "You've been so tense lately. You need to breathe." I gave in. We drove up Friday afternoon. The place was quiet. Rustic. Kind of eerie, honestly. Valerie acted overly nice at first, bringing snacks, smiling, complimenting my hair. It was fake, but I let it go. The next morning, I woke up to find Greg and Valerie dressed in hiking clothes. I was still half asleep. Greg leaned over and said, "We're going on a quick hike. You rest, okay? Take time to think alone." I thought it was strange wording, but I nodded and rolled over. They left around 9 a.m. I waited. By 11, I texted Greg, "You guys okay?" No reply. I called. No answer. By 1 p.m., I was panicking. I put on shoes and went to the front office. The man at the desk looked at me like I was crazy. "You checked out," he said. "What?" "Your mother-in-law checked out your room this morning." "No, she didn't. I'm still here." "That's my room." He pulled up the file. Showed me the name, Valerie S. signed out at 10:15 a.m. 1 room. 1 guest. I ran back. My key didn't work anymore. I got a maid to let me in. Everything was gone. My clothes. My wallet. My ID. My credit cards. Even the bottle of shampoo I brought from home. Gone. The only thing left was my phone, which I'd left charging by the bed earlier. That's how I saw the last message Greg sent me, "You should take time to think alone." That was it. No explanation. No apology. No answer to my calls. I sat on the edge of the bed, shaking. I didn't know it yet, but that was the start of something much darker. I sat there for over an hour, in that now empty room, trying to figure out what the hell just happened. I didn't want to believe it at first. I kept thinking maybe there was some kind of mix-up. Maybe they checked out by mistake, maybe Greg forgot something and would come back. But the longer I waited, the clearer it became, this wasn't an accident. They left me. And they didn't just leave. They erased me. With no wallet, I couldn't rent another room. I didn't even have my driver's license. My phone was at 19%, and I had no charger. I walked back to the front desk and asked to use a phone charger. The guy there looked uncomfortable, but he helped me. When my phone came back to life enough, I tried calling Greg again. No answer. I texted, "Where are you? What's going on? Why did you take my stuff? Is this some kind of joke?" Still nothing. I called a friend back in Columbus, my coworker Tanya. Thank God she picked up. I told her what happened, and she drove the 2 hours to come get me. When she got there, she kept saying how pale I looked. I must have. I hadn't eaten, hadn't slept, and my brain was spinning in circles. She took me back to her place. I didn't want to go home yet. I couldn't even if I wanted to. Greg had the only set of keys to our house. That night, I logged into my email and checked our bank account. That's when I saw the second gut punch. He'd pulled $8,000 from our joint savings. Gone. Just like that. I tried logging into our credit card account. Password didn't work. I clicked forgot password. Email not recognized. He removed me. I couldn't get into our utility accounts either. Same with the mortgage login. It was like I had been deleted from my own life. I sat there on Tanya's couch all night just staring at the screen, trying not to lose it. At 4 a.m., I finally broke and texted Greg again. "If you don't answer me, I'm calling the police." That got a reply. "Greg, don't do anything you'll regret. This is what's best for both of us. You need to think about how you've been acting." Excuse me? How I've been acting? I stared at that text, shaking with rage. And then the anger turned into something else. I started thinking. I started remembering. All the weird little moments in the last few months suddenly lined up. Like puzzle pieces. Him staying late at work more. Keeping his phone face down. The extra cash withdrawals. The sudden pressure for me to take a mental health break from work. Even that awkward dinner 2 weeks ago when Valerie said, out of nowhere, "Sometimes people don't see they're not cut out for married life until it's too late." At the time, I thought she was just being herself, mean and passive-aggressive. But now? I saw it all clearly. They planned this. And not just recently. 4 months. Greg and his mother didn't just want me gone, they wanted to erase me and everything I had a right to. What they didn't know was that I wasn't going to just disappear. If they wanted me gone quietly, they should have picked someone else. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept going over everything in my head, thinking about how they could have pulled it off so clean. But one thing kept nagging at me, why now? Why go through all that trouble right now? And what did Greg mean by how I've been acting? That's when I remembered something that happened about a month before the trip. We were having dinner, and Greg asked me if I'd ever thought about getting professional help. Out of nowhere. He said I'd been moody, off, and detached. At the time, I thought it was just him being insensitive, but now, it sounded like groundwork. Like he'd been laying the foundation for a story. A narrative where I was unstable. Where he was just doing what he could to help me get better. And then it hit me like a truck. What if this wasn't just about leaving me? What if he was trying to paint me as unstable to others, or even to the law? I had to get ahead of it. I needed evidence. I needed to prove I wasn't losing it. First thing I did was ask Tanya to help me make a police report, just to have something on record. We drove to the station that morning. I told the officer the truth. My husband and his mother left me at a resort without money, ID, or transportation, and they took all my belongings. The officer looked skeptical, but Tanya backed me up. I told him I just wanted it on file. I didn't push for anything yet. After that, I got serious. I still had access to my old work laptop. Greg never touched it. I started digging through anything I could find, emails, shared calendars, bank statements I'd saved locally. That's when I found something buried in the downloads folder, a scanned document. It was dated 3 weeks ago. A copy of a lease. But not for our house. It was a lease for an apartment in Cincinnati. Greg had signed it. And not alone. Valerie's name was on it too. 2-bedroom. Move-in date, the day after our retreat. He wasn't just leaving me. He was relocating, with her. I was shaking. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. All that talk about reconnecting, rebuilding, taking time to think, it was all a lie. He'd already planned his next move. Literally. But it got worse. Tanya and I drove past our house that afternoon. Just to see. There was a car in the driveway I didn't recognize. My car wasn't there. I called the neighbor across the street, Mrs. Geller. Sweet older woman who always waved at me when I came home from work. She answered right away. Denise? Is everything okay? I asked her if she'd seen Greg. Oh honey, she said. He moved out yesterday. Said you two were separating and that you were staying with your sister out of state. I don't even have a sister. Then she added, and he had a young woman with him. Thought it was your cousin or something? My blood turned to ice. It wasn't Valerie. I asked Mrs. Geller to describe her. Blonde. Skinny. Looked mid-20s. Had a dog with her, little white thing. Yappy. I knew that dog. I'd seen it on Instagram. Her name was Rachel. She used to be Greg's assistant at work. He told me she was barely 24 and like a kid to him. Apparently she wasn't too young to move into our home and help him replace me. It was worse than I thought. He didn't just run off with his mother's help. He replaced me, moved in the new girl, scrubbed me out of the house, and told people I was gone. And here's the part that made my stomach drop, I googled my name. Just curious. One result stood out, a post on a forum for caregivers, of all places. The username was familiar. An old email Greg used years ago. He'd written, "My wife has been struggling mentally. She's paranoid, aggressive, even dangerous to herself. I'm doing everything I can, but it's hard." He'd been building a case. Making me look unstable. So if I ever came forward, nobody would believe me. That's when I knew. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a setup. And I was going to burn every inch of it down. After I found that post Greg wrote about me being dangerous, something inside me broke. I'd been betrayed in the worst way, by the man I'd built a life with, by the mother-in-law who hated me from day one, and now by a younger woman who moved into my house like I never existed. But I didn't cry. Not anymore. I got to work. First, I called my old therapist. I hadn't seen her in a while, but she remembered me. I told her everything that happened and asked if she'd be willing to write a statement verifying that I was mentally stable and had no history of anything close to what Greg was claiming. She agreed. She was furious for me. Then I contacted a lawyer. A tough, no-nonsense divorce attorney Tanya recommended. Her name was Ms. Brenner, and she didn't waste time. The second I told her about the hidden apartment lease, the sudden checkout from the hotel, the missing funds, and the assistant-turned-girlfriend, her eyes lit up. "This is marital fraud," she said. "You've got enough here to bury him." She had me file an emergency legal order to freeze the rest of our joint accounts. We couldn't get the money back he already took, but we stopped him from draining anything else. Then she had a locksmith meet me at the house while Greg was at work. Yeah. That's right. I went back. According to Ms. Brenner, I had every right to. The house was still legally mine. I walked right in. The blonde girl was there. Rachel. She looked at me like she'd seen a ghost. Can I help you?" she said, clutching that little yappy dog. "You need to get your things and leave," I said. "This is Greg's house, it's my house. My name is on the deed. Yours isn't. Get out." She didn't move. So I called the police right in front of her. Told them I was the legal homeowner and had an intruder in my living room. They showed up fast. When I showed them proof of ownership, they told Rachel she had 10 minutes to gather her things. She left crying. Greg came storming in later that night. "What the hell are you doing here?" he yelled. "I live here," I said. "And now you don't." He laughed at first, like it was some joke. Then I handed him the paperwork. Divorce. Fraud claims. Emergency court orders. Restraining notice for him and his mother. I told him I had proof of everything, screenshots of texts, the email with the lease, the forum post about me being unstable, even the bank withdrawals. And here's the part one enjoyed most, I had changed the locks. His key didn't work. He had to leave his own house and drive back to Cincinnati to his mom's apartment. But I wasn't done. I gave Ms. Brenner everything. And she dug deeper. Turns out, Greg and Valerie had been plotting this since December. They'd been consulting with a sketchy divorce consultant who taught them how to gain control of the narrative. That included faking mental instability and isolating the spouse. Classic financial and emotional abuse tactics. Ms. Brenner used that to file for spousal misconduct and asset concealment. It worked. The court granted me temporary full control of the house and allowed me to petition for reimbursement of all missing funds, plus damages. Greg's company found out too. I sent them a polite, well-worded letter with details about how he left his wife in the woods and emptied a joint account. They launched an investigation. Greg got fired. Valerie tried to show up to court. Claimed I was the manipulative one. The judge asked her one question: "Did you check your daughter-in-law out of the hotel without telling her?" She tried to spin it, but the judge didn't buy it. She was slapped with a trespassing complaint and banned from contacting me directly. Now here's where it gets even better. Rachel? She dumped Greg a month later. She posted on her TikTok some vague video about getting tricked by a man who pretended to be a victim but was really a predator. I didn't care about the drama, but it made me smile. Greg lost his house, his job, his girlfriend, and his reputation. Me? I got my life back. It wasn't easy. I had to start over. I had to rebuild my credit. I had to face questions from people who didn't understand what happened. But every time I looked at the locked front door, the one he no longer had a key to, I felt peace. Sometimes people try to erase you. They forget that some of us don't just disappear. We fight. And when we do, we make sure they never forget us again.